How's it going, everybody? Hope we're all doing very well today. I'm in the Forbidden Forest between Blackburn and Rottenstall on the Graham Road. Absolutely love this place. If you've never been here before, I'd highly recommend it. It's great for these like wild spaces and for, you know, keen walkers and things like that. Some great nature paths you can follow. Quite busy today actually. Quite a lot of people out, which I'm surprised at given the weather. But it will not stop me from making an epic video and showing you what's really going on in our British countryside. So stay tuned to find out more. So, for those who don't know, we do have here in England our own wildman / Bigfoot phenomenon. And, you know, one of the skeptical arguments is we've just kind of jumped on the bandwagon as a nation. You know, like America have the Sasquatch, and then Asia, obviously, they have the Yeti. But I was talking about this with a friend of mine who lives in America actually the other day, who actually wasn't aware that we have our own version of Bigfoot in this country, and she said that it makes total sense as that, because as a country America is a lot younger than England, so it would only make sense that our legends and mythologies would predate anything that they have in America. Obviously, when the white man landed in America, you know, in the 17th century, there were accounts, you know, almost immediately that you can look up, of people being harassed and attacked by hairy men and women in the forest, aka Sasquatch, or Bigfoot. So that's what they have over in America. Here in England we have what's called the woodwoose, and the woodwoose is an old medieval term that loosely translates to man of the forest, and it appeared sort of in English churches and cathedrals and tapestries and statues and murals and things like that in the 12th century. You know, and it's looking at the images, doesn't leave much to the imagination. It's a naked man covered in hair carrying a club. Kind of looks like a Bigfoot to me, does that? And then even further than back, in Scottish folklore, you have what's called the Green Man, which, if I can just show you, I have a ring of him. And the Green Man is like a figure of wisdom and guidance. It's a literal face in the bushes that appears to weary travellers who've lost their way and helps protect them out in the wild and things like that. A lot of pubs in England called the Green Man as well, funnily enough. So yeah, we're very sort of rich in folklore on this subject in this country. So yeah, another argument that skeptics have is, you know, England, such a tiny island. You know, key word there being island. How did they get here? And, you know, 10,000 years ago, when the last ice age ended, there was actually a land channel between the south of England and France called Doggerland, and you know, I'm sure many species managed to get across that land bridge in that time. Because England used to have bears, wolves, lions. They're all gone now, you know, through obviously the efforts of us over the last 10,000 years, hunting them all to extinction. And, you know, maybe the woodlouse was one of them. Because Asia has as a continent, it has a very rich history of wildman type creatures. You know, Russia has the almasty. Mongolia, like I was saying before, they have the yeti, which obviously is very famous. And then China, they have the yeren, which, you know, if you look at the descriptions of all these animals, or beings, whatever you want to call them, phenomena, they all bear striking resemblance to the woodlouse. So the woodlouse, according to eyewitness accounts and artist depictions that have been done, it's more man-like in appearance than it is gorilla-like. Whereas the Sasquatch over in America, even the Yowie of Australia, they're the same. They're very, very similar in appearance. A bit more animal-like in appearance. So who knows? Could be. So here is an image that I'm sure is very iconic to Bigfoot believers. An X structure. These are seen all over the world. Every thick, dense woodland, these are everywhere. You know, and one of the theories is that they're used by Bigfoots as territorial markers to keep, you know, rival individuals out of their territory. You know, some people think these are completely random, and some people believe that they're heavily linked with the Bigfoot phenomenon. Me personally, I used to come into the woods when I first got into this and think everything I saw was Bigfoot. Whereas now I'm a bit more, I don't know, because I've spent so long in this hobby, I don't really take as much notice as what I used to. But it's still very cool to see whether it is Bigfoot or if it's just completely, you know, natural to nature. Alright, so here we are, officially in the haunted forest. This place is spooky in the day, never mind at night time. Couldn't imagine what it'd be like here at night. It's so dark in here, the camera doesn't really, you know, it lights me up a bit better than what it actually is in person. But yeah, you'd look at a place like this and think, bingo, you could just see an upright 7 foot tall hairy man walking through here, or hiding out in here, or whatever. But, you know, the thing is, when you actually look at this place for what it is, you know, it's very, very barren, really. There's little to no vegetation here. You know, like that greenery there, that's not grass, that's moss. You know, which obviously to some animals it's not edible as that. And because there is no light in here, nothing can grow in here. You know, your movements are very restricted as well, because of how tightly packed all the vegetation is. And, you know, what would dispel this place from being, you know, potential woodlouse British Bigfoot hotspot, is the fact that if you look at the sightings that they've been in the countryside, majority of them, if not all of them, take place in, you know, sort of like classic British woodland. And they, you know, if you know anything about ecology, British ecology, not that I'm an expert, but I do know basic things about it, because obviously my work with animals. I heard something then. Yeah, so this, what I'm in right now, is what would be called a new forest. And that's because it's young. all these trees were planted by us relatively recently. And like I was explaining, there's not really much nutrition to be found in a place like this. Whereas if you go into an old woodland, like a Sherwood forest for example, the Forest of Dean down south, those kind of places are a mixture of deciduous trees and vegetation and flowers and, you know, brooks and streams. They're going to attract more wildlife. There's going to be more natural food groups there for animals to graze on, and that's where majority of Bigfoot sightings happen in this country, not in a scary woodland like this. You know, the only thing that you do find in here that is a little bit unusual are the odd scattered animal remains, like skulls and vertebrae, bits of rib cage, and in all actuality that is probably just sheep that have wandered in here and, you know, they've died from overexposure. So yeah, something to think about anyway. Look at that view. Absolutely beautiful. Love it. Being blinded by the sun. So the main argument, in my opinion, that I would say that the skeptics have against there being a Bigfoot type creature in the UK, like I was saying before, the UK is a tiny island, and it's just that, it's tiny compared to, you know, North America, Canada, Russia, Australia, you know, these big continents, subcontinents, where, you know, Bigfoot phenomena is very, you know, popular, very common. And it's a bit of an urban myth, is that, you know, like, about the UK, you know, there's no wild space left to hide an animal like this. Well, like I say, it is an urban myth because only 6% of the UK's landmass has actually been built upon by buildings, skyscrapers, houses and things like that. 50% of it is farmland, and then the other 34% makes up woodland, you know, country parks and wilderness and things like that. So yeah, one thing that I've been, you know, as a little theory of mine, been very sure of this for quite a long time, and it's that I think these things, whatever they are, they get seen a lot more than what we realise. It's just that unfortunately people aren't in a position to talk about it openly and freely. You know, it's like Bob goes out with his dog and comes home to Mary and tells her, guess what, Mary? I've seen a Bigfoot. Yeah, alright, Bob, tell us the next joke. You know, so it's funny because I was saying before about how, you know, something might seem like the UK has jumped on this bandwagon, this Bigfoot phenomenon bandwagon. And we kind of have, in a way, feel like we're mirroring the path of America back in the 60s with the UFO phenomenon. Back in the 60s, it was, you know, if you talked about UFOs, if you claimed to see a UFO, you were just a tin hat wearing lunatic and nothing more. And that's kind of what it's like right now with Bigfoot in this country. You know, it's really, you know, like, not socially acceptable. It's seen as a bit weird, really. And it is weird, but it's also amazing, I think. You know, and I think the subject should be taken more seriously because, you know, people that have seen these things, it's traumatised them. In some cases, it's stopped people from going into the woods altogether. You know, it's not this grand spiritual experience that some people would imagine it to be. You know, it's pretty terrifying. You know, it occurred to me the other night as well, this, when I was doing my stakeout video, that it is very possible to remain hidden in plain sight. Like, you know, which the British Bigfoot must do, to remain undetected. And, you know, when you spend a lot of time out in the woods, in nature like this, come across certain patterns that people do. You know, usually a casual walker, they're going to either be with kids, you know, their own kids, managing them. It's a dog walker. Somebody with their friend, they're just chatting away. They're on their phone, you know, they're not paying attention to what's going on. You know, and an animal that knows this, we can take into consideration the alleged intelligence of these species. If an animal can kind of take advantage of that, like a Bigfoot type creature, you know, they would easily be able to slip out of sight undetected. You know, there's a lot of different theories about that. You know, some people think they're nocturnal. You know, we'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, very interesting. Just one more thing that I wanted to kind of touch upon before I finish the video today. And it's that, you know, if these things, these Bigfoot type beings, are a flesh and blood creature, like we are, like so many other animals on this planet. Some people don't, some people have lots of different theories about what they actually are. We'll talk about that again in another video. But if they are, you know, carbon-based organism, I don't think there's that many of them. You know, another misconception as well, kind of like what I was saying about skeptics' argument that the UK is just too small to support a population of these creatures. I think it's a misconception in itself that they need great amounts of space to roam. I think if this is an intelligent animal that sort of, you know, rivals our own intelligence, they must be highly adaptable. And again, it goes back to that argument, they can hide in plain sight. You know, so yeah, I don't think there's many Bigfoots. I think they're very rare. I don't think it's a case of just coming into any woodland and being able to see one on a day out. You know, I think it's got to be by chance that you see one. But yeah, and then, you know, one thing just to leave you with, whatever they are, Bigfoots, I don't think they will ever be found. You know, like, people joke about this subject, and that's why it'll never be taken seriously, because people make it into a joke, like programs like Finding Bigfoot, and, you know, like, they make a mockery out of it, really. You've got to get your boots on the ground and see what's going on out here, you know, to actually get a grasp on, you know, the fact that there is something strange out here in our woodlands. But you know, people say, oh, they've not found Bigfoot yet, is he still on the loose? You know, undefeated hide-and-seek champion. It's all fun and games, I suppose, because it keeps the general public's interest in it, but it will never be found. And for me personally, not to, you know, like, go a bit too conspiracy theory here, but I think that there is certain governments around the world, certain nations, that know about these things, and it's in the best interest to keep it hidden from the public. Because, you know, if the general public knew that there were 7 foot tall, upright, hairy men and women walking around these woods at night time with the potential to maim, injure and kill them and their loved ones, tourism industry would massively suffer. You know what I mean? People would stop coming out to the countryside. So yeah, I don't think it'll ever be announced to the public. I don't think the big guy will ever be found either. I think it's one of those things that it'll just stay a mystery forever. You know, that's the way it should be, really. You look at what we do to nature and the planet and all the other animals that we share the earth with. It's probably best that these things just want nothing to do with us. Stay out of the way. So yeah, I'm going to leave it for today, guys. And if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like me to do more of this kind of topic, like unusual, mysterious phenomenon in the UK, please let me know, because I've really enjoyed making this. It's a subject I'm very passionate about. And yeah, I could talk for ages about Bigfoot to like-minded people. So as I say, if it is something that you want to see more of, please let me know down in the comments. Leave a comment, like the video, share, subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you all further on down the road. Bye bye.